I'm so happy to join once more a webinar to support Sri Lanka's amazing decision to be the first country to go 100% organic and to join all the wonderful organic family from around the world to join Sri Lanka in this 10-year transition. So we have 100 years ahead of us. This decade is really the determining decade. And I know Hans will have much more to say about the decade of sustainability. Let me share with you my own learning and experience. I'm not trained in organic farming or farming. I'm trained in physics. I got into agriculture because of 1984 and the eruption of violence and discontent in Punjab. And I then studied what chemical agriculture was. And I noticed that the crop life letter to the president, first of all, I'd like to say that word is a wrong word. It's not the right thing. They don't take care of crops. And I'm so looking forward to Andre's new book about growing life. It is a wonderful book that will help us all. And the poison cartel that has tools and technologies to wipe out life, extermination tools that have given us the insecticodon, cancers. Life is not what they know. They know how to kill. They don't know how to grow things. So crop life really is the marketing arm of the poison cartel. And they're the ones who brought us the so-called Green Revolution. And in the letter to the president, they carry on with the myths. I thought by now these myths would be put aside because we have so much experience, so much knowledge. They are saying the reason you can't get rid of chemicals is because the main contribution to achieve self-sufficiency in paddy production was the productivity improvement rather than introducing lands, new lands. What? Punjab never grew rice. Every acreage of Punjab is a new land. It devastated 250 kinds of species the Punjab farmers used to grow. Punjab, the land of the 5 rivers, devastated today, a red zone for water, a foot of water loss every year. But it doesn't end there. Look at the tragedy that while on the one hand, Sri Lanka is making a commitment to 100% organic, there's a ship sinking with nitric acid, which makes nitrogen fertilizers. I think it's a message from the universe. Let those ships sink and let us grow organic. That is our task. The other aspect that the crop life letter talks about is that we have managed to prevent damage because we have addressed the pathogens, the bacteria, the fungi, the virus. Fungi is what feed us, the mycorrhizal fungi. The bacteria are what take organic matter and decompose them and turn them into humus. So the science is wrong. And therefore, of course, their technologies have to go wrong. And it's only so far the brute force they have had, which has allowed them to push chemical agriculture, green revolution, farming, GMOs. And the standing of Sri Lanka is partly because Sri Lanka has paid a high price. Kidney failures, amazing studies done. Suicides, the new acts passed to prevent suicides, but banning, especially hazardous pesticides. 70% reduction in suicides. These are the policies all governments need everywhere. And we, as the movement, have to now make sure that the way the movements have worked in Sri Lanka is the way we move in all of our countries. Basically, the Green Revolution is a soil destroying system, ecosystem destroying system. Our work has shown in Navdanya that in the chemical farms, the fungi have gone down nearly 50%, the beneficial fungi, of which there can be 2,300 miles of fungi in 1 cubic meter of soil. That's how bountiful they can be if the soil is organic. In the organic soils, they have increased 6 to 36-fold. 36-fold means 33,600 times more. And it's fungi that make soil. It's fungi that make soil fertility. And the amazing work being done by David Johnson showing that when you have fungi and good bacteria-rich soils, you can actually increase the photosynthesis 5-fold. And with that increased productivity, our beneficial bacteria are up 78%. And the comparison is 241% compared to chemical. Destroying the very sources of food production and soil fertility is a wrong science. The soil is living. The soil food web is the basis of the food web which feeds us. And Albert Howard, who was sent to India in 1905, and his book, An Agricultural Testament, is the inspiration from the organic movement everywhere. It led to the creation of Soil Association in England, the Rodial Institute in America, and Yves Balfour and the others got together and created IFOAM. So it is the organic movement. And this is what he says, that those who had got used to making money during the wars pushed the NPK mentality, that nitric acid makes explosives and synthetic fertilizers. The same factories make explosives and synthetic fertilizers, and they couldn't give up their addiction. 1 kilogram of nitrogen fertilizers uses 2 liters of diesel. And if we don't shift, we'll be using 277 billion liters of diesel by 2030. This will be contributing to greenhouse gases. 50% of the greenhouse gases come from an industrial globalized agriculture. It is also creating dead zones everywhere. There used to be 10 in 1970. There are now 450 dead zones. And Sri Lanka is surrounded by the ocean. Fish is also food. To kill your fish is such a wrong approach. Soil is where food grows, health grows, nutrition grows. And as Howard says, a soil teeming with healthy life is the shape of abundant microfauna and fauna, the ones the crop life people wipe out and treat them as pathogens. These bear healthy plants, and these, when consumed by animals and man, will confer health on animals and man. But an infertile soil, one lacking sufficient microbial, fungal, and other life, will pass on some form of deficiency to the plant, and such plant, in turn, will pass on some form of deficiency to animals and man. And the reason I'm particularly glad about the approach of the Sri Lankan government is you're connecting 3 things. You're connecting stopping your dependence on imports, stopping the ruination of ecosystems and non-sustainability, but you're connecting health. And the minute we connect sustainability and health, organic is the only way we can move forward. The collective costs of industrial farming, we've done the calculations in India. We have a book called Wealth Per Acre. We did the externalities for soil, for destruction of ecosystems, destruction of biodiversity, farmers' suicides, farmers' death. It's about 1.3 trillion. And I think it would be good for Sri Lanka to work those costs out. But as a team, as a collective that's working today on this webinar, let's do it for the world. Let's do the high costs paid in terms of disappearing species, climate change, health costs, disappearance of small farms. In Europe, 1,000 a day are disappearing, the very farms that we need to solve the problems. Bill Gates wants to promote more chemical farms, and he wants to promote more nitrogen fertilizer. And he actually says nature can't produce the nitrogen. He doesn't understand ecosystems. Earthworms turn soil into 5 times the nitrogen by eating the organic matter. And as our work in India has shown in Navdanya, and Howard noticed this is that in India, they never have monocultures. They always have pulses in mixtures, because pulses give you free nitrogen, and they also fix the nitrogen in the atmosphere. A chickpea can fix up to 115 kilograms of nitrogen per acre. Pigeon Peak can fix up to 200 kilograms nitrogen per acre. This is the answer to addressing climate change. And, you know, I hope Andre will talk more about it, but nitrous oxide emitted by the fertilizers is 300 times more damaging. And we are every year emitting 1.3 billion tons for killing the land, for killing the ocean, for killing the soil organisms, and also killing the climate balance. The CropLife paper also talks about how they have saved Sri Lanka by preventing pests and damages. When I did my book, The Green Revolution, I did a lot of work with the agricultural scientists of Punjab. First of all, we didn't have rice in Punjab. It was introduced, it was land expansive. The second is Indian rices didn't have pests because we are the center, Vavilov Center of rices. Our farmers had evolved 200,000 rices, and Dr. Risharia, my teacher in seed saving, had done a lot of the work. And he used to be the director of the Cuttack Rice Research Institute. And because he wanted to prevent the Erie rices from coming to India because of pest and disease introduction, they removed him so that all the rices could go to the International Rice Research Center, where they are now working on a golden rice, which is pathetic in terms of providing vitamin A. As the new varieties started to come introduced, every year, new pests were created. Pests have been created by chemical agriculture. The leafhopper, the brownhopper were all products of the Green Revolution. We did not have the level of pests. 1966, plant hopper was first recorded. 72, 75, 78, 81, 82, 83, the brown hopper started to come up. And every year new pests came up. And I have a whole table here of the pests created by chemical farming. 53 new pests that Punjab agriculture never had. Chemical fertilizers weaken the plant, prevent the plant from fighting its pests itself. Plants have the capacity to resist pests. But monoculture are a feast for particular insects which become pests. And then when you destroy through pesticides, the friendly insects, the pest-predator balance is destroyed. You get more pests. And the pressure of pesticides on insects creates super pests. Just like in the BT cotton, they are now super pests. And I know Hans has done a lot of work with the scientists who've been working on the failure of the BT cotton, and he's published with some of them. The combination of monocultures, weakening the plant through fertilizers, lots of water, 10 times more water to grow the same amount of food, spraying pesticides, pushing beneficial species to extinction, driving resistance, are all recipes for pest creation. And this again is because crop life does not know life. It does not understand that insects are intelligent and will evolve under pressure, resistance to the pesticide, to Bt toxin in the plant. They do not understand that spraying Roundup will create Roundup resistant weeds, besides giving kidney failures. The final thing I want to say in the remaining time I have is this claim that, oh, we save land because we increase productivity is so very false. In the 60s, Green Revolution was introduced in Punjab. The first place where it was ever introduced in the third world was in the 65. In the 60s, the yield was 4. The percentage increase was 4. 70s, because they were harvesting on the build-up soil fertility of the soil that was organic before, was 5. It dropped in the 80s to 1.29. In the 90s, it's down by 0.34. And the research is there. Because the chemical fertilizers are killing the soil organisms that create the soil fertility, they are in fact destroying the conditions for productivity. And these are ICR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research data. The fertilizer response in the last 30 years has dropped from 13.4 kilograms of grain per kilogram of nutrient to 3.7. Another study, while only 54 kilograms was required to produce 2 tons of crop in 70, now you need 218 kilograms. 48 kilogram food grain of NPK in 1970 to 10 now. So there's a decline in productivity because you've destroyed the very conditions, the ecosystem, the soil food web that produces. But the measure of yield in any case is wrong, even when it was good enough. Because yield only measures what leaves the farm, the commodity that leaves the farm. It does not measure the state of the farm. It does not measure the state of the farmer. I have seen tribals in India sell silver to buy urea. I have seen my country impoverished for urea. And worse, it doesn't measure the quality of food. Chemical foods are nutritionally empty. Again, our own data has shown it, but all over the world, 60, 70, 80% decline in nutrition of chemically farmed food, and that much more in organic food. Our 20-year study has shown that organic matter enriches the soil with nutrients, and because it enriches the soil with nutrients, you have more nutrition. Organic matter has gone down 14% in the chemical soils of my valley, 200 farms we studied, and it's gone up 99% in organic farms. But the soil ecologist who did the study, the point he was really surprised at, because 22% less nitrogen in the soil for applying nitrogen fertilizer. Nitrogen fertilizer goes to the ocean. It does not fertilize the soil, but our soil, they have 100% more. But we have more potassium, we have more phosphorus. The NPK is being produced by the soil organisms, but the soil organisms are also producing zinc. It's 37% less. Zinc deficiency is a very serious crisis in immunity collapse. And you'll notice in the discussions how zinc supplements are becoming vital to deal with the COVID. Our zinc is up 14%. Iron is down 12%. We have created a recipe for malnutrition. Malnutrition in the soil, but also malnutrition for the people who use the soil. I want to share with you this another false idea of productivity, because Borlaug got the Nobel Peace Prize, but his student in India was Swaminathanji. Dr. Swaminathan admitted it so clearly. He said high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice are high-yielding because of partitioning. They don't grow more biomass. They only grow more grain compared to straw. That means they're making us lose the straw. And Fukuoka, dear Fukuoka from Japan, did the book called The One Straw Revolution. It's the straw that matters, that goes back to the soil. And when you have no straw to return to the soil, you're going to get soil deficiencies. You're going to have the burning of straw, as in Punjab now. So what is there is the harvest index increases, that's the yield, but not the plant. But when you have biodiversity, yield anyway doesn't measure anything. That's why we in Navdanya evolved the measure of biodiversity-based productivity and health per acre and nutrition per acre. And our work is showing that the more biodiversity you intensify, the more organic you grow, and the more you intensify nutrition in food, we can grow enough nutrition to feed 2 times India. And I think Sri Lanka can do the same. Let me share just 3 quick tables with you from our biodiversity study. So a comparison of monocultures and mixtures. The net profit of a monoculture in a millet is 2,480. For a mixture, it's 12,000, nearly 6 times more. And everyone's talking about doubling farm incomes. That was in the case of Rajasthan, a dry land. In the case of paddy, the net profit is 6,720 compared to a mixed farming of millet, which is 24,600 rupees. So for the farmers too, it is a leasing proposition. But the one I just love is the fish and rice system. When you don't use poisons, your fish will flourish, your shrimp can flourish. And fish and rice systems have been typical of all rice cultures, and I'm sure they were typical of Sri Lankan culture.